When you think about businesses that are selling through the roof, like Aloe or Allbirds, sure, you think about a great product, a cool brand, and great marketing. But an often overlooked secret is actually the businesses behind the business, making selling, and for shoppers, buying, simple. For millions of businesses, that business is Shopify. Nobody does online business better than Shopify. It's home of Shop Pay, the #1 checkout in the world. You can use it to boost conversions up to 50%, meaning way less carts going abandoned and way more sales going through to checkout. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/income, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/income to upgrade your selling today. That's shopify.com/income.
The last thing you want to hear when you need your auto insurance most is a robot with countless irrelevant menu options. Which is why with USAA Auto Insurance, you'll get great service that is easy and reliable, all at the touch of a button. Get a quote today. Restrictions apply.
USAA. This content may not be suitable for all audiences. Listener discretion advised.
She wouldn't stop, wouldn't blink, wouldn't break eye contact. And as she kept talking, she started moving closer.
I finally spotted my friend and practically ran over to her. When she looked behind me, her eyes widened.
It felt like every person in the village died inside their homes, and the entire place had succumbed to a silent plague.
From killer podcasts, true tales of horror, bizarre happenings, unexplainable events. This is Disturbed. Hello and welcome back to the show. This week, we're bringing you 6 true stories where safety is an illusion. Whether it's a trusted family friend, a stranger on the street, or something far beyond the veil. So sit back, listen closely, and dive into the horror. We begin with a memory that's lingered for years. A trusted adult, a series of late-night walks, and a childhood shattered. From Reddit user 826-282-629-268-26, and narrated by Brian Jeffords.
When I was about 9 years old, my dad had a friend named Gary. He was the kind of guy people described as quirky, but nice. Gary was single, in his late 40s, and often came over to our house to watch football or have a beer with my dad. I didn't think much of him at the time. He just seemed quiet, with a weird sense of humor. One summer, my mom went out of town for a few weeks to take care of her sick sister. During that time, Gary started coming by more often. One night, he asked my dad if he could take me for a walk to burn off some energy. It was already dark, and I thought it was strange, but my dad said sure. We walked around the neighborhood, and I remember Gary asking me weird questions, like if I ever thought about running away or if I ever wanted to live in a cabin in the woods. It became a routine. Every couple of nights, Gary would come by late, sometimes around 11 or midnight, and we'd go on these walks. He always brought snacks in his coat pockets, like jerky or candy, and would give them to me like it was our little secret. One night, we walked further than usual, near the edge of a wooded area by the old quarry. Gary stopped and stared into the trees for a long time before saying, "You know, it's quiet out here. Nobody would hear anything." Then he smiled at me in a way that made my stomach twist. I asked to go home. He said nothing for a bit, but then nodded. After that night, I started making excuses not to go. Gary didn't push it. Years later, I mentioned those walks to my mom. Her face went pale. She told me Gary had been investigated back in the 90s in connection with a missing child, but nothing was ever proven. I looked it up and found a newspaper article about a boy who vanished just a few miles from the quarry. I never told my dad, but I can't stop wondering how close I came to never coming home. Gary, let's not meet again.
Next, a recent brush with the unexplainable. Something happened just last night, and you still can't quite wrap your head around it. From Reddit user PrimaryMost7111, with narration by Bodhi Crowe.
Okay, so a little backstory here. Yesterday, my dad asked me to go with him to the hospital because he forgot some of his stuff in his office or wherever, and this was around 10 p.m. My dad is an internist at a hospital. The hospital has buildings for different departments, like one for heart diseases, one for lung issues, etc. My dad also wanted to talk to the head of department. I don't know which department, just a little chit-chat about basic stuff. But to get to him, we had to go through building J9, or something like that, I think. And from J9, we could reach the head of department's office. So we went into J9. It's basically an unfinished building, abandoned for now, I think. It's either under construction or maybe never will be constructed, just sitting in its current state. We walked in, and it was pitch black. My dad pulled out his phone and used the flashlight. We kept walking. It was silent, just us in the dark, until we saw a man walking toward us. He looked totally out of place. He had an extremely long beard and very long hair on both sides of his head, but the middle was completely bald. He walked right toward us, just staring. Didn't say a word. My dad said, "Hey, can you open the lights here?" Assuming the guy worked in the building, but the man didn't respond. He just kept staring and walked right into the elevator. My dad was confused, but didn't think much of it. We made it to the HOD's office and stayed there for about 30 minutes. They talked about random stuff. Afterward, my dad wanted to go up to his own office to grab the stuff he forgot, and the fastest way there was using the same elevator the man had gone into earlier. We pressed the elevator button, it arrived, and to our surprise, the man from before was still inside, 30 minutes later, just standing there. We got in, pressed the floor for my dad's office. The man didn't say a word. He just stared at me, then at my dad, back and forth. I side-eyed my dad like, why is this dude staring at us like that? Suddenly, the elevator stopped working. My dad called the HOD. Hey, the elevator stopped working on us. The HOD replied, just press the emergency button, it should work. Then my dad asked him, who's the guy working in J9? I talked to him, he hasn't said a word, and he's just staring at me and my son in the elevator now. The HOD was confused. He said, no one works in J9. He told me to press the emergency button, but the guy was standing right in front of the panel. I had to lean my arm behind him, press around his side, and hit the emergency button. The elevator kicked back on, but the guy, still staring. First at me, then my dad, then back at me. My dad waved at him and said, you okay? Nothing. Just the same back and forth stare. Me then my dad, me, then my dad. After 5 seconds, the elevator arrived at my dad's floor. We got out. The guy stayed inside. We walked down the hall to grab my dad's mug and laptop. It took maybe 10 seconds. We came back to go down to the car, pressed the elevator button, and the door opened. The elevator hadn't moved, but the guy was gone. I started freaking out. I couldn't wrap my head around it. The elevator hadn't moved since we got out. Where was he? I asked my dad, where did the guy go? He just looked confused and said, I don't even know. We went down and back to our car and didn't see him again. I'm still thinking about that elevator, about how it never moved, about how he just vanished. I don't know who or what that man was, but whatever it wasn't normal. And I really, really hope I never see him again.
Our third tale brings us face to face with a young man who went from annoying to terrifying in the span of a few blocks. Voiced by Kyra Cornett.
So for context, this was during COVID. I don't remember exactly what year. Also, the apartment I live in has multiple other apartment buildings around it, all made by the same company. Now, onto the story. During COVID, I would walk my dog around the apartments, and that was really the only reason I would go outside, besides to hang out with the kids at the apartment playground. So the first encounter I had with the teenager was in the summer. I was a child and it was hot, so I wore shorts, still covering everything. Now, where I was walking my dog, there's this big hill you have to walk up. I saw 2 teenagers across the hill, but I didn't think much of it. I just kept walking. Then I heard one of the 2 teenage boys yell, "Nice ass." Now, I was clearly 10 or 11 years old at the time, so I found it odd, and I just ignored them. But then, who I assume was his younger friend, said, "She's totally ignoring us. He said you have a nice ass." I quickly ran back to my apartment with my dog. I didn't tell anyone because I thought it was the last I'd see them. Until a few weeks later, I was out with my dog again near my apartment, and I was just watching him, when suddenly he started barking like crazy. I looked up, and it was the older brother, the one who had commented on me. I quickly picked up my dog so he wouldn't bite him, and I said, "Sorry he's barking so much. Did you need something?" Then he asked me how old I was. I said, "I'm 10 or 11. I honestly don't remember exactly, sorry." He told me he was 17 years old. Then he asked what apartment building I lived in. I didn't tell him. So then he asked the next question, if I wanted to play video games at his apartment. I said no, I wasn't allowed to go into strangers' places. But he kept insisting I come over. He said we'd have fun, that I could even bring my dog. Then he tried to grab my arm. I pulled away quickly and made up an excuse that I had to go ask my grandma. Then he said, "Okay, I'll be waiting for you outside at the swings." I went inside. I didn't ask my grandma because I didn't want to hang out with him anyway, and I didn't want her to worry or keep me from hanging outside. It was against the household rules to go with him anyways. I saw him around a few more times, and I always avoided him after that. Eventually it stopped when I turned 13 and moved away. So, creepy 17-year-old, let's not meet again.
You're listening to Disturbed. We'll be right back.
Imagine it. A hot summer night, You're out walking in the woods, and your phone is dead. Out of the corner of your eye, you spot them, a famous actor who is also a serial killer. They get down on all fours and break into a sprint. Are they gaining on you? Absolutely not. Lucky for you, you're wearing Quince's lightweight and fashionable joggers, and getting away from a real-life cannibal celebrity is a breeze. I rely on my black flow-knit performance joggers from Quince on the daily, playing in the yard, lounging around the house, surviving the horrors of the Ohio wilderness. These babies can do it all, and they do it in style. I'm wearing Quince this summer, and so should you. Stick to the staples that last with elevated essentials from Quince. Go to quince.com/disturbed for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's QUINCE.com/disturbed to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/disturbed.
Smart Water Alkaline with antioxidant. 9.5 plus pH, now in cans.
Refreshing.
Made for every way you move.
Should I run a marathon?
Let's start with finishing that water. Smart Water Alkaline with antioxidant, now in a sleek can. For those with a taste for taste. Grab yours today.
Whatever the occasion, effortless elegance is right this way. Because Hilton brings you new ways to stay courtesy of the Nomad London. And it doesn't stop at award-winning dining in a space draped in velvet and illuminated by vintage chandeliers. No, this day goes beyond with unparalleled personalized service and attentive hospitality. Oh, and did we mention the Nomad London can be booked using your Hilton Honors points at Hilton.com? Hilton, for the stay.
Welcome back to the podcast. Our fourth story centers on a chilling phone call. Reddit user NecessaryOrange334 shares their experience, with narration by Erin Rementer.
I grew up in a very small town in India, in the Bengali community, where ghost stories are part of our literature and culture. We grew up reading stories about friendly ghosts and creatures, stories that get more serious as you transition into adult literature. You can even do a simple Google search for ghosts in Bengali community and find a whole list. We also have a festival called Bhoot Kadardashi, which is somewhat similar to Halloween in the West. So I wasn't really scared of such things as a kid, but I was definitely intrigued. This is the story of a creature called Nishi. At least, that's what my grandfather believed it was. I'm narrating this story on his behalf. He loved telling me tales of other people's encounters, but this one was his personal experience. Back in the early 1950s, my grandfather lived in a very small, secluded village near the border of Bangladesh and India. There was a temple near his home, and until the late 1930s, this temple was infamous for performing rituals that included the sacrifice of goat heads and even, disturbingly, human heads. He told me about multiple times he had returned home late from work and spotted figures in the dark, shadows shaped like half-human, half-goat forms moving in the lanes. Creepy, right? But one night, things went even further. It was monsoon season, the time of year for the most anticipated freshwater fish, hilsa. My grandfather had a habit of fishing after sunset. He said the fish were calmer at that time in the nearby lake. Nobody really understood his reasoning, but we suspect he just wanted to avoid the hassle of dealing with other fishermen and didn't want to share his big catch of hilsa for the day. He couldn't recall the exact time, but believes it was around 8:30 p.m. Mind you, in that tiny village, 8:30 p.m. felt like midnight. Everyone was asleep. The lake was just a 10-minute walk from his house, located directly opposite the old temple. That night, he was fishing contently and getting lucky with huge hilsas full of freshwater caviar. He'd had a long day at work, eaten dinner, and told my grandma specifically not to disturb him. Then, he heard her voice calling from somewhere behind him, from the dark. "What is it?" he yelled without looking back, still focused on the fishing net. No response. "What?" he yelled again a few seconds later. Still nothing. The thing is, my grandma never came out at night, ever. She was terrified of the village after dark. She'd often say it felt like, after 6 p.m., every person in the village died inside their homes. Even the animals went still. Not a leaf stirred, even in the heat, as if something terrible had happened and the entire place had succumbed to a silent plague. Worried it might be something urgent, my grandfather started packing up. Then, again, he heard his name, echoing through the emptiness. Why wouldn't she just come to the lake instead? He thought to himself. Don't wander in the darkness, dear. Go home, I'm following you, he called into the night. Following you, following you, following you. The voice answered back. But it changed. It was playful, each word deeper than the last. A blend of male and female tones. That was the moment he realized this wasn't his wife. Dear, following you. Dear, following you. Now the voice was mimicking his own, as if it were coming from a twisted version of himself. He held an old-fashioned kerosene lantern. The flame flickered faintly, lighting just the space around him. He also carried a small container of extra oil, but he was too scared to move, too scared to breathe. The fish had begun flopping out of the net, twitching violently on the ground. He just stood there. Then came the voices, laughing, crying, overlapping. The voice of his wife, his own voice, echoing that horrible mimicry. Then, even scarier, a long silence. Suddenly, from the dark came,
Love me, come to me, I don't have much time left. Love me, come to me, I don't have much time left.
This time, she was crying. As the lantern flame shrank, the voices felt closer, nearer. And then, nothing. All he remembers next is waking up in his bed the following morning. The front yard was crowded with neighbors. My grandma was sobbing, worried sick. She hadn't seen him come home. He ran a fever for the next 2 weeks. After that night, he never stepped outside after 6 p.m. again. A year later, after my dad was born, my grandparents left the village forever. Thankfully, whatever haunted him that night never came back to.
When someone is unknown to you, they can go from strange to unsettling in an instant. This next story is from user Slappy Pappy, narrated by Daniel DeGroh.
I was walking into my apartment building this evening when a woman I've never spoken to and only vaguely recognized said, "Hello." I'm personable and polite, so I said hello back and continued toward the door. Then she asked how I was and how my weekend was going. I figured it was just small talk, so I answered. Immediately, she followed up with, "Where do you work and how long have you lived in the building?" That caught me off guard. Not threatening exactly, just oddly direct. But I answered, thinking maybe she was just a little socially awkward. As soon as I finished, she launched into something else entirely. No one has ever helped me. No one's ever offered me help my whole life. I'm just trying to better myself, but no one will help. People don't ask me to go out and do fun things, and I like doing fun things. I stammered something like, that's rough. And before I could even finish, she was talking again, more agitated this time. I don't have friends. No one helps me. I'm just a nice person. She wouldn't stop, wouldn't blink, wouldn't break eye contact. And as she kept talking, she started moving closer, subtly, but enough that I noticed. It felt like she was trying to corner me, trap me there. My skin started to crawl. The hairs on the back of my neck were standing up. That's when my super came out of the building. She looked right at me and said she needed to talk to me about something. No details, just a way out. I took it immediately. Once we were inside, she told me not to talk to that woman. I said I thought maybe she was just lonely or socially off. I've worked with people on the spectrum before, and with individuals who were mentally disabled, it didn't seem right to judge so quickly. But the super didn't hesitate. "Avoid her," she said. And honestly, women tend to have a better instinct about dangerous or unhinged people, so I decided I would. I live alone, so I'm extra on edge not to endanger myself or let people into the building who don't belong. Still, now that it's been a few hours, I can't shake this feeling. I keep replaying it in my head, that unbroken stare, that needling intensity, the way she stepped closer like she was measuring something. I told myself she might just be eccentric, maybe misunderstood. But something about her, about that interaction, keeps gnawing at me. And if my gut is right, then I don't think she wanted help. I think she wanted something else entirely.
Our final story comes from Reddit user WonderfulBid9269. Very nice. Thrift stores are full of clothes that have seen better days, but the people who shop there can be just as bad. Narrated by Catherine Restivo.
This happened last month, and I've been thinking about it ever since. For a bit of context, I'm 19 years old. I had gone to the thrift store with my friend, also a 19-year-old girl. The store is huge, like an indoor flea market, and we wandered off to look at different things. I was in a corner by the book section, and I had just picked out a book when I heard a man say, "Hey." I looked up and saw a man probably in his 30s. I said, "Hey," and gave him a small smile, assuming he needed to get past me. Instead, he said, "You have beautiful hair." That caught me off guard. I said, "Thank you," then turned back toward the books, hoping he'd take the hint and walk away. He didn't. He said, "You're really pretty. Are you from here?" Immediately, I felt on edge. I lied and said, "No, I'm from out of town." He said, "Oh, too bad. If you were local, I'd ask you to be my girlfriend." Then in a weirdly upbeat tone added, "But I guess I still will." At this point, my heart was pounding. I said, "No, thank you," and started to back away. He followed me. He asked, "Are you sure? You really are pretty." I said again, "I'm good, thank you." I turned and started walking away, heading back toward where my friend was. He followed me all the way across the store. I didn't want to cause a scene, but I also didn't want to turn around and acknowledge him again. So I walked faster. I finally spotted my friend and practically ran over to her. She could tell something was off immediately. I whispered, "That guy's been following me." When she looked behind me, her eyes widened. She told me he had literally been walking just a few feet behind me and stopped the second I got to her. We pretended to browse near the counter and then checked out quickly. I was hoping he'd finally give up and leave us alone. But when we walked outside, we saw him standing near the exit. Just standing there, waiting, watching. We rushed to the car and locked the doors right away. I kept looking in the rearview mirror the whole drive home. I was scared he'd follow us out of the parking lot. But thankfully, we didn't see him again. I don't know what he was planning. I don't know if he was just some socially unaware creep or something else. But I do know he made me feel truly unsafe in a place I used to love going. To the guy in the thrift store, let's never meet again.
Want more Disturbed? Check out our Patreon for member-exclusive content, early merch access, and other cool perks. I'm your host, Doug Bailey, and this has been Disturbed, a production of Killer Podcasts and part of the Evergreen Network. For more paranormal and true crime shows, visit killerpodcasts.com. Follow our social channels at Disturbed Podcast on Instagram or Disturbed_pod on Twitter. If you enjoyed the show, please consider subscribing and reviewing on your favorite listening platform. Share your own true horror story at DisturbedPodcast.com. Music by Epidemic Sound and by Carl Casey at White Bat Audio. Our producer is Noah Fouts. Our audio engineers are Nathan Corson and Will Pritz. Executive producer Bridget Coyne. Until next time, stay safe out there.
Hello, listeners. We're committed to making scary good podcasts for you to enjoy. With the lineup expanding to twice a week and new shows and formats coming your way, we want to make sure we're giving you exactly the horror you're listening for. We created a survey to gather feedback about the show and to learn more about you as a listener to make the best Disturbed that we can. Interested? Go to theshowsurvey.com/disturbed to take the quick anonymous survey and be entered into a drawing for a $100 Amazon gift card.
Again, that's theshowsurvey.com/disturbed. Every week, we'll select a different winner for participating. And hey, thanks.